Hello everyone and welcome to the 2021 Nissan Rogue, and let me tell you when I say that it's been quite interesting living with this vehicle for the past week, because we're looking at an all-new platform from Nissan. Nissan, I think, has been lacking behind in many respects in the past few years, where so many of its competitors have come out with all new generations, new technology to keep them interesting. And I've personally found that Nissan has been behind in that respect. But with this all new model, I've noticed that this is a much more competitive product today than perhaps the Rogue has ever been. So on this drive, I'm going to tell you everything that I've learned living with the 2021 Rogue for a week, and at the end of the video I'll place it in my ranking system so I can tell you where I think it lies against its main rivals. This new generation of Rogue, as you can clearly tell, is designed very differently on the inside and on the outside. Not too radical of changes under the hood or the powertrain, anything like that, but we'll start off with that because in the vehicle I'm driving we have a 2.5 litre naturally aspirated inline-4 engine. It's transversely mounted. It makes 181 horsepower and 181 pound-feet of torque. Not big numbers, not too far below something like the Mazda CX-5's naturally aspirated engines. So you drive this and you're aware that it lacks that turbocharged punch down low, and that's where most driving situations is going to take advantage of that power. But the CVT is responsive enough, so if you want a little more thrust, it picks it up. So if you're merging onto a highway, yeah, you won't have the same pickup in speed as many of its rivals, but in no way offensively slow. Let's talk about the CVT for a minute, because we've had this transition of CVTs being terrible slush boxes that have almost no refinement or software built into them. But these days we are seeing CVTs with some kind of software transmission mapping to make it feel more like a traditional torque converter automatic. And I really like that. It's definitely not as good as the CVT that Honda is using in something like the new Accords, the 1.5 litre Accord. But what I like about it is we're at a constant speed now. If I pick up the pace a little bit and then let off of the throttle, you'll see that the needle is ticking down like it would be shifting physical gears. And then when you're reaching red line, it's also shifting gears up there. There's a simulated 8-gear preset in this CVT, and you can change those fake gears if you want to with the paddles behind the steering wheel, or with the interesting digital stick here for your reverse, neutral, drive and park. That's something that I thought I wasn't going to like when I first found out I was going to be testing out this vehicle, but it's actually really easy to use, no more complicated than anything else on the market. So the transmission is pretty good, but definitely not the best that the industry can offer. There is a little bit of rubber bandiness. If you're trying to gain speed a little more gently, it will hold it at like 2,500, 3,000, that kind of a thing. But powertrain, pretty good. It is a front-wheel drive vehicle as standard, and you have, of course, all-wheel drive as an option in some of the trims. You can change around the driving modes to go from an off-road, snow mode, auto, eco, and sport. Other aspects of driving, I really think Nissan has hit the perfect balance between a little bit of an involving ride and being comfortable. I'm on a terrible bit of rocky road right now, and it isn't abusing me, it isn't beating me up, but I feel like I have an actual connection to the road. So Nissan, I think, has really been successful in this department. Steering's on the lighter side of the spectrum, not too featherweight. Brakes are pretty good too. The driving experience of this Nissan is actually quite desirable. The active steering assist in my time driving has actually been pretty good. Not enough that I would say it's better than the Hyundai or the Kia vehicles that I've tested out with their equivalent active steering system, but good enough that I could reasonably trust this vehicle a little bit. One point during my drive, the adaptive cruise control system failed, and that meant that you couldn't engage the regular cruise control system. That's a bit of a shame. Let's move on to the cabin. With the design, it isn't, I think, breaking any rules, trying to do anything too differently, but everything's laid out very smartly and very efficiently. I like that in this model I'm driving, we do have some glossy black plastic in here, but it is textured. So here in the center console, it's kind of got this brushed effect to it. So even though it will get dirty and dusty like any other gloss plastic, it isn't scratched up as badly as what you'll see in many of its competitors' interior design materials. It spreads elsewhere in the car, so just where you have your window switches and door locks, but there are some gloss black pieces, and the one thing that is particularly annoying is that here on the steering wheel, right on the top of it where you'll rest your fingers to select all the buttons, that's a gloss plastic, and I can tell that's a little bit scratched too. A couple other things to mention with the steering wheel: it has a very slight flat bottom design. I like how much glass there is in the greenhouse. Just look how big these front windows are. Like we're seeing in a lot of other vehicles on sale today, there's an open space, which is fantastic for storing away other larger items like handbags. Door pockets are fairly big. I can fit my 1 liter water bottle in there, no problem. Interacting with the touch screen, the climate control, really easy, really straightforward, and it has a quality touch to it. It doesn't feel thin-skinned in the way that I've personally felt towards some Nissan products in the past. Talking about the second row, I am a little disappointed that there isn't a 3-way split in this car. It's a 60-40 split, but the seats are very accommodable for someone my height. I'm 6'4", I have no issues sitting behind myself. I wouldn't mind perhaps the seats being a little bit higher, so I have a little more leg support, but that's not enough for me to not want to sit back there. The seats can fold pretty flat, and you'll notice that the doors open just as wide as a Honda CR-V. They open up 85 degrees, and if you're a young parent, if you constantly have to get your baby or your toddler into their baby seat into the second row, having that super wide opening, I think is going to be really attractive for that specific purpose. You can hide away the security cover underneath the false floor, and you'll see that you have a space saver spare wheel back there. So here's where I want to go with the conclusion of my thoughts towards this Nissan Rogue. I don't think it's doing one thing in particular any better than its competitors. For example, I think the Mazda CX-5 is a nicer driving car. I think the Koreans will have more interesting exterior and interior design for their vehicles, and something like the Honda CR-V is a little more spacious inside. But with all of these vehicles that I've mentioned, because it is such a crowded and densely populated segment of the market, it would be very hard for Nissan to find one thing to focus on and really be successful at nailing that one aspect of a car. Living with this vehicle for a week, I think it has a lot of elements that work really well towards it. I like the exterior design personally. I think it looks quite good. Interior design isn't radical, but very well made, and the material used in this SV model is pretty good. I found the seats to be a little bit firm when I first got into the vehicle, but they've ended up being incredibly supportive. So with that said, I don't think you're going to buy the Nissan Rogue because it is the absolute best in class, but it is something more than ever that I think you should consider. I think it's worth your time. I think it's worth your money. So my final statement towards the 2021 Nissan Rogue is that I don't think it's the absolute best vehicle in this class by quite some margin, but it gives anyone a good reason to go out and test drive one. I'm actually going to place this vehicle in my consider owning ranking because I don't think that it tackles any task poorly or that it isn't up to the job of what people are looking for in this compact class. I just think if you're looking for something for a little more space, you go with a CR-V. If you want something with a little more driving involvement, you go with a CX-5. A little more refinement, maybe a Tiguan. The Nissan Rogue is a very good car and a vehicle that you really should consider owning if you're going to shop in this segment. So thank you very much for taking the time to watching this video here on the Drive Guide. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all of those other wonderful things. Really helps me out a lot. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you on the channel again soon.